Hi, I'm Tarık Toros. Welcome to What's Happening in Turkey. Let's start with this. The man seen as the biggest political threat to President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan is now in jail. His name is Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul. He's been behind bars for 3 weeks. For 6 years, he ran Istanbul, a city of 16 million people, the country's financial, cultural and political hub. And a lot of people believed he could actually beat Erdoğan at the ballot box. This week, he appeared before a judge for the first time since his arrest. And here's what he said. I am here because I stood up against everything that was bad for the people while running the city. Nothing can stop me. He also said something else, and it hit home. Someone in Ankara is jealous of me. He didn't name names, but come on, everyone knew he meant Erdoğan. He directly blamed him for the arrest. And then, on the very same day, Friday, 11th of April, the government moved in and took over his family's company. Let's rewind a bit. İmamoğlu was arrested on Sunday, 23rd of March, the exact same day he won 15.5 million votes in his party's internal election. He was officially declared the presidential candidate of the CHP, the main opposition party. After that, a massive campaign kicked off to support him. Sign for Freedom, our presidential candidate is Ekrem İmamoğlu. So far, more than 10 million people have signed it. The biggest protests in 10 years. It all started last month, when İmamoğlu was charged with corruption. The reaction? Unprecedented. The largest anti-government protests in Turkey in over a decade. Hundreds of thousands of people poured into the streets. The CHP began holding rallies twice a week, all across the country. They also called for a boycott of companies close to Erdoğan. So far, about 1,500 people have been detained, including journalists, local politicians and activists. More than 300 university students were arrested. Most have been released to await trial, but student protests are still going strong. And every Wednesday, the economic boycott continues, targeting pro-government businesses and media. A total breakdown. At this point, relations between Erdoğan's ruling AKP and the opposition CHP are completely broken. The CHP has declared 19th of March, the day İmamoğlu was detained, as a coup day. They say the government is basically a junta now, and they are calling Erdoğan a coup leader. Europe says almost nothing. CHP leaders have been openly criticizing the international silence, especially from the United Kingdom and the European Union. Özgür Özel, the current CHP leader, told The Guardian he was deeply disappointed. He said it was unacceptable for UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to stay quiet, given that the CHP is the sister party of the UK's Labour Party. And he said something that cuts deep. When this is over, we won't remember the loud voices of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. After İmamoğlu's arrest, the UK government and the Labour Party said nothing. Not even a comment when BBC reporter Mark Lowen was expelled from Turkey over accreditation issues. Some EU leaders said a few words. French President Emmanuel Macron, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, but it was short and diplomatic. No strong pushback, no consequences. Meanwhile, Özgür Özel says they are ready to run İmamoğlu's entire presidential campaign from prison, if they have to. Targeting journalists, too. And the pressure isn't just on politicians, it's on journalists, too. One of Turkey's best-known reporters, İsmail Saymaz, was put under house arrest. The reason? He was somehow linked to the Gezi protest 12 years ago. Since 20th of March, he hasn't been allowed to work. Then on 10th of April, journalists Timur Soykan and Murat Aurel, who work with CHP-aligned outlets, were detained after a complaint from a pro-government businessman. They were released later that day, but under judicial control. Right now, doing journalism in Turkey is nearly impossible, and X, formerly Twitter, is blocking thousands of accounts from being seen inside the country. A story that breaks the silence. Sümeyra Gelik. While all of this plays out, another story, a heartbreaking one, has quietly shaken people to their core. It comes from Bolu, a small city, and it involves a 14-year-old girl named Sümeyra Gelik. On the morning of 3rd of April, Sümeyra was found dead in her bed. And what came out next revealed a much deeper tragedy. Her mother, Melek Gelik, was a teacher. She is also one of thousands of political prisoners jailed in Turkey since the mass purges that began after the failed coup attempt on 15th of July 2016. After the school where she worked was shut down by emergency decree, she was arrested and sentenced to 6 years and 10 months in prison. She is serving that sentence in a prison far from her home and her children. Since then, Sümeyra, just a child, had been raising her 2 younger siblings on her own. The emotional weight, the trauma, and the responsibility were too much. She developed epilepsy. Her father says her health began to decline right after her mom was jailed. She had been in treatment and was seeing a psychologist every week. But on 3rd of April, she went to sleep and never woke up. Her mother has been in prison for 28 months. She still has 22 months left to serve. Europe speaks up, but only a few. Most media in Turkey ignored the story. But in Strasbourg, members of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe didn't stay quiet. UK MP Sir Edward Lee condemned Turkey for refusing to move Melek Gelik to a prison closer to her children. He called it a clear violation of human rights. Spanish MP Laura Castel called it a tragedy. She said, "It's a tragedy for anyone who believes children should not suffer. To see a mother jailed over nonsense charges." And Swedish delegate Markus Wiechel, speaking not as a politician but as a father, said he was heartbroken. He said it's unacceptable for the mother to remain in prison for another 2 years, and promised to keep the case alive. The world's biggest prison. Let's step back for a second. Right now, 403,000 people are behind bars in Turkey, both convicted and awaiting trial. That makes Turkey the biggest jailer in Europe and second in the world. And these prisons, they are holding more than 100,000 people beyond their capacity. That's where we are. I am Tarık Toros. You've been watching What's Happening in Turkey. Thanks for joining me. See you next week.